Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Yashodanandana Brajanaranjana Jamunatira Panchari Jamunatira Panchari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Yashodanandana Brajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajanaranjana Jamunatira Panchari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajanaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj the Prabhupada ki Jayam Rishabharam Sabharaj Gajaya Sto Jayasanta C.C. Mad Bhakti Siddhanta Sajita Gaur Prabhupada ki Go Premanandi. Om Jnanachivarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshundritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Because we cannot see Krishna with our ordinary senses, therefore, we may consider that bhakti is not a priority in our life. You see, so much of what we call the real world, the practical world, is based on what we can perceive with our gross material senses. Because we cannot perceive the full reality of the Supreme Personality of Godhead with our tiny, imperfect, gross material senses, then what we do is we declare that understanding Krishna, serving Krishna, hearing about Krishna, chanting about Krishna is not so important. What is this world doing to us? The pressures of mundane society are pushing us to consider our gross sense perception as most important. This is what people call the real world. But Bhagavad Gita is offering you instruction how to go far beyond what the gross material senses can perceive. It is stated in Padma Purana, Ata Sri Krishna Namadi na bhavet kayam indraya seva mukhi jivada swayameva spratyada. No one can understand the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of Krishna with their gross material senses. But if you take to the bhakti process, which begins with the tongue, jivada. The beginning is the jiva, the tongue. By chanting Hare Krishna, talking about Krishna, and tasting food offered to Krishna, you can begin to understand who is Krishna. Swayameva spratyada. The experience of Krishna becomes manifest to you. The human being has to decide, shall you live your life simply in terms of your gross material senses, or shall you develop your spiritual senses, revive your spiritual sense perception? With the human form of life, you can make that choice. Of course, a life based simply on gross sense perception is no different than animal life. The animal tells what is desirable and undesirable by smell. So many human beings today just live for the moment in terms of what is pleasing to the senses. And that kind of mentality is considered the pinnacle of civilization. Throw all your cares away, throw all your inhibitions away. Just do what you have to do to please yourself. This is where the world is progressing. Not simply in the West, but also in India. People are becoming 100% focused on their immediate gross sense perception. And then, what is commonly called love and charity and care and compassion means simply dealing with someone according to their gross sense perception. So in this way, everything becomes so debased and devalued. So what is Krishna trying to do in Bhagavad Gita? Krishna is offering you a program for uplifting your sense perception so that indeed you can be aware that there is a higher reality. Not simply theology, not simply religious belief, but practical experience. So everything depends on whether we want to make some lifestyle adjustments. Bhakti Yoga is all about lifestyle management. That is a cutting edge field in case you want to be prepared for the present and the future. Everyone is always alert to what occupations will be the most rewarding for the future. But Krishna presents the eternally lucrative occupation, teaching lifestyle management, how your life can be used to give you perception of the spiritual reality. That is the real goal of the human form of life. We're simply meant to work for maintaining, in a simple way, our bodies. But the whole purpose of maintaining the body is so that you can focus on the real business of human life, which is to revive your dormant love of Krishna. Krishna gives you the methodology. He gives you the technique, the technology for how to do that. It is not that we are left alone in this world to struggle on our own. At every step, Krishna is there advising as the super soul in the heart. He's speaking as Bhagavad Gita. He's speaking as the spiritual master. And in this way, from all angles, we are getting the right education, the right information. But we are very stubborn. We are convinced that we have more important things to do. And this is our big mistake. Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th canto, explains that there is no greater mistake in life than to make something a higher priority than your own self-realization. So you can analyze your life in that way. Are you making this greatest mistake of thinking something is more important than you're developing your Krishna consciousness? Certainly, bhakti is on your list for most of you here. But is it number one? Or is it 2, or 3, or 4, down the bottom of the list? Or is it something that you will do only when you're in your 70s? We were discussing this last night in Hornsby, Nampata program. Many persons have this idea that the first 60 years of your life are meant for solid material endeavor. Then, when you are broken down, worn out, exhausted, in your 70s, that is the time for bhakti. In other words, you think that Krishna's instructions in Bhagavad Gita are simply meant for grandmothers and grandfathers. But while you are young, while you're in your middle ages, you should be endeavoring very vigorously for material success. And of course, everyone gives the excuse, I'm doing this simply because of the children. Right? When we hear from Krishna, our whole vision of life can change. And that is the powerful advantage of hearing about Krishna, hearing from Krishna. Just by the sound vibration going into the ear, our original consciousness becomes revived. Hearing about Krishna is like an alarm clock going off. It wakes you up. So how is it that we are sleeping? We are sleeping because we have other priorities in our life than reviving our Krishna consciousness. Sometimes you may think that the bhakti process following Bhagavad Gita is difficult to do on your own. And it's true. On your own, you can be overwhelmed by so many material priorities that masquerade as the most important thing you do in life. On your own, you can be overwhelmed by the information age, in which so much useless and unnecessary information pours down upon you. You drown in it. On your own, your mind and senses are very powerful. But if you have a support group, and that is what the community of devotees is all about. It's a support group so that everyone can receive the necessary strength and encouragement how to follow Krishna's instructions. Bhakti is meant for being performed in the community of devotees. Then the taste for hearing about Krishna becomes even sweeter. This is stated by Lord Kapiladeva in the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Satam prasangan mama virya samvido bhavanti hritkana rasayana kata. The talks about Krishna become even more powerful when they're discussed in a collective situation, in a group situation. Taj Joshna Ashu Appavagavartmani. Then the doorway to freedom from material existence opens wide. Shraddharatiya Bhakti Anukramishati. You develop firm conviction based on experience. You develop bhakti, loving devotion to Krishna. Rati, you develop attraction. Taste, it's all there. Attachment for Krishna. What is material life all about? Attachment based on false attraction. You can tell that you're making spiritual advancement when your attraction to material life starts to diminish. When you slacken your grip on material life. But that will only happen when you have superior sound vibration going into the ear. Bhagavad Gita is that superior sound vibration. There in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains himself. He says that his energies are everywhere. But he personally is not distributed everywhere so that he has no individuality. By the material senses and the material intelligence, this is difficult to understand. How can Krishna be everywhere and still be a person, an individual? Normally you think that if something is spread everywhere, then it loses its particular original shape and form and individuality. So what is this that Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita? He's spread everywhere. Yet, then again, he is distinct as an individual, as a person. What does Krishna himself say about this? He says, Pashyame yogam aishwaram. Just see my mystic potency. Although I'm everywhere and everything rests upon me, I'm not there. So you might think this is some kind of double talk, isn't it? Krishna, make up your mind. You say everything rests upon you. Okay. But then you say you're not there. So how can everything rest upon you if you're not there? So what does Krishna mean? He means that he's not there. That means the non-devotees cannot see him. Although he is everywhere by his energies, still he's the individual source of everything. He doesn't lose his identity. He doesn't lose his individuality. So he is there, but you cannot see him with your ordinary gross senses. So when he says, I'm not there, everything rests upon me, but I'm not there, he means I'm not there to be seen by those who have impure vision. And in the next verse he says, Pashyame yogam aishwaram, just see my mystic potency. Although my very self is the source of everything, I don't lose my identity. That is Bhagavan Sri Krishna. Sometimes people ask, there are so many definitions of God, there are so many religions, how do we know? So I explain that it is your duty as a human being to get the most comprehensive, in-depth understanding of the science of the Supreme. Because there are different levels. Just like this little girl here, Paula, yes. She will go to school in a few years, and she will learn 1 + 1 = 2. That is correct. And similarly, you're studying at the university, calculus. And you also know that 1 + 1 = 2. But obviously, the university calculus student understands the depths of the mathematics science. Whereas this little girl can only repeat mechanically, 1 + 1 = 2. She's right. And the university student is right. But she doesn't have the depth of knowledge that the university student has. In Bhagavad Gita, you are getting the deepest knowledge of the Supreme. And just think, Bhagavad Gita is the introduction. After Bhagavad Gita comes the graduate study, Srimad Bhagavatam. And then there's the postgraduate study, Chaitanya Charitamrita. There is so much bhakti knowledge, it'll take you several lifetimes. So at least use this one lifetime to understand this knowledge. We are pushed by the mundane world to understand so many unnecessary things. And therefore we forget all about the ultimate goal of life. We forget all about understanding Krishna. But we should become very, very fascinated. How is it that Krishna's energies are spread everywhere, yet still Krishna remains a person, an individual? How can that be? What is this mystic potency of Krishna, about which he remarks, Pashyame Yogamaishwaram, just see my mystic potency. We want to challenge, if we're unfortunate. Krishna, are you everywhere or are you localized in one place? Krishna says he's both. So how can that be? Either you're in one place or you are spread out everywhere and you've lost your individuality. That's our material calculation. But material calculation cannot bring you to true understanding of the Supreme. We need to purify our senses and hear from Krishna and then apply what we hear. And then we get realization beyond the gross material senses. This is why everyone loves prasad. You've tasted these ingredients before, but something has happened. What is that special flavor in the Krishna prasad? The special flavor comes because Krishna has tasted the prasad. You are beginning your transcendental experience just by tasting prasad. You are taking a journey beyond gross material sense perception. You realize there's a special flavor in this prasad. Similarly, you can hear the Hare Krishna mantra over and over and over again. But it just seems ever fresh. So all of bhakti is like that. It is a distinct experience from the mundane experience. Why are we so attached to the mundane experience? Because our consciousness is polluted. With a polluted consciousness, we postpone our spiritual progress. Or we keep it very much reduced. We have an unnecessary fear that if I become too spiritual, my material life will suffer, right? We have this fear of Krishna. I often point out, have you seen the verse in Bhagavad Gita where Krishna warns you about having too much Krishna? Has anyone seen that verse? There's no such warning. There's no such verse. You can never get enough Krishna. But because of material attachment, we have this fear. Oh, if my life becomes too spiritual, what will happen to my material life? I'll lose my competitive edge at the workplace or at the university. You can't function in this world being saintly. This is the rat race. You have to be a rat to race. Even the ladies, they're being taught that. I've seen bumper stickers on cars in Sydney. Nice girls finish last. Yes, even the ladies are being pushed. Get into the rat race. Don't leave it just to the men. You can do it too. So in this way, all of human civilization is becoming spoiled by persons who think they know what is reality. Why this fear that if we make spiritual advancement, if we follow Krishna's instructions, we won't be able to properly materially live? Krishna is the expert on all aspects of life, material and spiritual, because both the material and spiritual energies emanate from Krishna. He says in Bhagavad Gita, Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam bhavartate. I am the origin of everything, spiritual and material. Everything emanates from me. So by hearing from Krishna, you become expert in all aspects of life. Please let us understand that. Otherwise, we suffer from arrogance. Krishna, you're very spiritual, that's all right. But when it comes to material life, I know best. Well, are you emanating the material energy? How can you claim expertise? Not only are you not emanating the material energy, but you are being totally bewildered by the material energy. But still, we want to present ourselves to Krishna. No, I accept what you say spiritually. But about the everyday life, well, I have to consult myself, of course. Our problem in life is due to not taking seriously what we hear from Krishna. Now you may ask the question, why Krishna? Why makes Krishna so important? But Bhagavad Gita is the standard law book. And in Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna, he tells you, it's not only that Arjuna is saying Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all the greatest personalities in the universe are saying that. This is the first reason why we accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Not because it's our arbitrary doctrine. At this temple we teach Krishna, other temples teach other things. Take your pick. No. All the greatest personalities in the universe say that Krishna is Bhagavan. Therefore we say, and because we are following in the footsteps of the greatest personalities in the universe, we are getting the greatest experiences, the greatest realization. So please understand, the first reason why we accept Krishna as Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is because the greatest personalities accept Him. In other words, we freely admit our dependence on authority. Who here can say that you don't depend on authority? To do anything ordinary in this world, you need to listen to authorities. Your whole life, from morning to night, shows dependence on authority. So, then why should we complain when it comes to the most important part of life, the spiritual life? We are dependent on authority. So, in other words, your life means a quest for coming in contact with the best authorities. You cannot avoid authorities. You are dependent. Just like this child here, Paula. She cannot avoid dependency on her father. She likes to depend on her father. You would say it would be very strange if she just rejected her father and said, no, I'm doing my own thing. You would say, Paula, that's not natural. You have a nice father. Depend on him. Now, do you see Paula here in anxiety about, is the mortgage at home being paid? Is she in anxiety about, is her father making the car payments? No, she's dependent, and everyone glorifies her for that. Similarly, we are dependent on Krishna. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Sarva yoneshu kondya murtaya sambhava. You should know that all species of life, no matter what kind of body, for all of them, Krishna says, He is the seed-giving Father. That means we are dependent on Krishna in terms of our maintenance, in terms of our existence, but more importantly, we are dependent on Krishna for pure love. It's time for us to grow up and become mature. That means to acknowledge our dependency. Dependency means we depend on authorities. Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam present the most advanced personalities in the universe. Just take a look at Arjuna. He's not a sadhu. He's a military man and a householder. Yet he is far beyond the level of any human being today. And in Bhagavad Gita, you get a chance to hear the dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna. So please understand this first point. We are completely dependent. Let us not be arrogant. I am my own authority, or I don't depend on authority. So Bhagavad Gita is presenting to you the best authorities. And then, if we take the experience as given by the best authority, if we follow their instruction, we'll have our spiritual experiences. And in this way, we can be sure our life has the greatest fortune. So Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam have meaning because they are coming from the greatest authorities. So you compare. It's not that we are saying this out of some kind of partisan mentality. Our authorities are the best. No, you compare. Compare the personalities, the purity of the Bhagavatam personalities, the Bhagavatam authorities. Compare that with anyone else. So in this way, Krishna consciousness moves ahead because of dependency on the topmost personalities, the topmost authorities. And they give you a process for understanding and experiencing what they say. What more can you want? But I know. Right? Too busy. Not now. That is the most popular mantra in Kali Yuga. Not now. Yes, Swami, what you say is right, but not now. We have this prejudice, this bias, that following Krishna's instructions very strongly is meant for when you are in your 70s. The first 60 years of life are meant for material achievement, material success. I was speaking with one elderly lady in Japan. She had just come in contact with Bhagavad Gita and was chanting Hare Krishna. Now, according to contemporary social scientists, the most unhappy country in the world is Japan. Yet, Japan is one of the most technologically advanced societies in the world. But according to psychological indicators, standard psychological indicators, Japan is home of the least happy people. So, I was speaking to this lady. She was about 65. And she was telling me about her life. All my life I worked so hard. When I was a young lady, single lady, I worked hard. Then, when I became married, I worked hard, doing a job as well as taking care of the home. When I had children, I worked hard, doing a job, taking care of the home and taking care of the children and the husband. And then I thought, I'll retire as a grandmother. As a grandmother, I still worked hard, taking care of the grandchildren. Now, finally, the grandchildren are old enough. I'm free of the responsibilities of my children, of course, and I'm free of the responsibilities of my grandchildren. I'm retired, I'm not working anymore. Now, she said, what is the reality? She said, now I can read Bhagavad Gita. I love this book, but as soon as I open it, I fall asleep because I'm so exhausted from 65 years of work. It was very sad, very sad. I can't stay awake. I'm so exhausted after 65 years. I want to read this book, but I'm so weak. I'm so exhausted. I felt so sorry for her. This is the reality. Of course, Japan is very advanced in this syndrome of hard work. They even have in Japan a special term for persons who die from overwork. It's called karoshi. A special term in the language. Persons actually just drop dead from working so hard. So they have special charity funds to help the families of such persons. It's a recognized social phenomenon. Now, we will say, oh, we won't go to that extreme, right? But haven't you noticed? Even in the lucky country, Australia, the employers are squeezing the employees tighter and tighter. More than you ever thought could happen. It's going on gradually. How many of you remember in the ancient prehistoric times, the 40-hour work week? From the dinosaur age, yes? So this is what is happening. We are being squeezed tighter and tighter and tighter, thinking that we are making progress and becoming more advanced. This is the problem. By hearing from Krishna, you become relieved of all these false ways of living. We want to restore human civilization to its actual capacity. That is the great effort of the Krishna Conscious Society. How to restore the human civilization to its proper place. We ask everyone to please help in this task. That is why we so much stress the mass distribution of Krishna conscious knowledge. Everyone can take part in that. And in this way, you're connected to the greatest mission in life. We are making temples not simply as social gathering places, but as places where persons can come and get the highest knowledge and get support in their spiritual culture. We are not interested in big buildings just to have big buildings. You may think there's some kind of competition. Who can have the biggest mandir? This group has their mandir. Now our group must have a big mandir. This is not what we are thinking. This is not what the leaders of this temple are thinking. They are concerned how to provide a facility so that the most people can get the greatest knowledge. That is the difference. Not blindly following rituals. Well, my grandmother did it like this, so I will do it like that. I don't know the reason, but I don't know what it means. We are educating people in the science of Krishna. We have taken as our number one priority the distribution of spiritual knowledge on a mass scale, unprecedented mass scale, and educating families in how to apply the spiritual culture in their life. So every one of you has a chance to be part of this glorious effort. And in this way, you can get the special mercy coming from Krishna. So I'm very happy to see how the congregation here is increasing and becoming more and more dynamic. Please think what powerful role you can play in this great mission. Whatever your capacity is, whatever your resources are, you can be a part of the most important endeavor on the planet. You'll be doing Krishna's work. That is the best thing for you, for your family. And don't wait to do it until you're 70. Don't lament like this lady in Japan. Give it your best right now. There's a way how to serve Krishna with balance. Do we think Krishna doesn't understand? We have families, we have jobs, we have schools. Do you think he doesn't understand? Why do we have this fear? Don't get too close to Krishna. He doesn't understand work. You know, he only dances He doesn't understand the work schedule. He doesn't know about deadlines, university exams. He doesn't know. This is our foolish speculation.